So we're going to continue lesson 4 by 4.4 on solving linear equations by just doing some more practice problems. So keep in mind, this is again what we're focusing on. Simplify each side, gather all x terms on one side. When we do that, we get equations we already know how to solve, or at least they should look familiar in how we know how to solve them. So here we have the equation, I read over here, 2 times the quantity, 3x plus 2, notice I said times the quantity, and that's in parentheses, equals 2x minus 1 plus x. And again, guys, this can seem a little more confusing because there's a lot going on here, but take it step by step and focus on each side. Remember, the first thing we want to do is simplify each side. So on the left side here, I have 2 multiplying everything in parentheses. So this isn't the only way to do it, but I'm going to start by using my distributive property. I'm going to multiply 2 times 3x to get 6x, plus sign, 2 times 2 to get 4. Now I'm going to simplify the side over here. I'm going to change my subtraction to addition. Remember, keep, change. Subtracting is the same thing as adding the opposite. I'm going to put a little 1 in there for that x to remind me, because then when I combine my 2x and my 1x, I know that's 3x. And then I have my plus and negative 1. All right, so now I've simplified each side. Now we're going to do that second step here. We're going to gather all our x terms on one side. It doesn't matter which way you move things. It's an equal sign, so it'll work. But we have an x term on this side, left side, and an x term on the right side. So I'm going to choose to get rid of the one on the right side. I do that by combining it with its opposite. If I have 3x combined with a negative 3x, that gives me 0 x's. But whatever I do to one side of the equal sign, I have to do to the other. So if I have 6 x's and I take away 3 x's, I'm just left with 3 x's. And then I bring down my plus 4. Notice how it's helpful if you're kind of neat about this, and I know you guys know that's a struggle for me. But if you can kind of keep things lined up, it makes it a little bit easier. All right, now look at this is a two-step equation. Notice by simplifying and then gathering all the x terms up on one side, we get a two-step equation we know how to solve. So I'm solving for 3x. I always get rid of whatever's being added on or subtracted from. So I'm going to get rid of this 4 first. I'm going to do that by subtracting 4. Whatever I do to one side, I do the other. That gives me 0. So 3x plus 0 is just 3x equals, again, negative plus a negative is going to be a negative. 1 plus 4 is 5. And then this is multiplying. We divide. It's different numbers, same signs. I'm like, sorry, same process. So we get x equals a negative 5/3. Totally okay if you leave it like that. You could even switch it if you wanted to a negative 1 2/3. I would not change this one to a decimal just because it's going to be a repeating decimal, and we don't want to use like the bar notation and everything, because if I needed to do something with this number, it would have to be a fraction of some sort. All right, looking at another example. Solve the linear equation x minus 9 equals 3/5 times x. All right, simplify each side of the equal sign. Nothing really to simplify over here, but I'm going to change this to addition. And nothing to simplify over here. So then our second thing we want to do is gather all our x terms up on one side. Well, remember this is the 1 here. You can do it either way, and I want to show you guys something. I'm going to choose to get rid of this 3/5 x. So I'm going to combine 3/5 x with the negative 3/5 x. Notice we're moving the whole x term. So whatever I do to one side, I have to do the other. I'm going to write it under the x's so it lines up. Here's where some mistakes are made. I want to focus over here on the right side. If I have 3/5 of an x and I take that away, then I'm left with 0. So a lot of times that messes people up because they don't have anything over here. Right, you have 0 things over there. Bring down my negative 9. Now, if I have 1x and I take away 3/5 of that x, I'm left with 2/5 of that x. If you need to, bring down your plus sign. You can absolutely, change this into a, common denominator, 5/5. 5/5 minus 3/5 is still going to be 2/5. Okay, but if you can see it in your head, that's fine too. All right, so now solving for my x term, get rid of whatever's being added onto it first. That's negative 9. I want to combine that with a positive 9. Whatever I do to one side, you do to the other. I'm left with 2/5 x, that cancels, equals 0 plus 9, which is 9. Okay, so now this is multiplying. We undo that by dividing. I'm going to divide each side by 2/5. 2/5 divided by 2/5 is 1x. And remember, this becomes 9/1 divided by 2/5. Keep it, switch it, flip it. Really nothing we can reduce out. So 9 times 5 is 45. 1 times 2 is 2. So we can get x equals 45 over 2. Or, well, 2 goes into 45 22 times. That would be 44. So there's one of the 2 left over. Okay, so don't be intimidated when you start seeing fractions, guys. Yes, we might have to do a little work off to the side, but it's the same work. Last example. Pay close attention to this one. I believe this appears on your homework. This is 5 equals negative 5 plus x divided by 3. All right, this one can be a little tricky because there's something on the numerator here on top of the fraction bar and something on the bottom. And I would say get rid of whatever's being added on first. The problem? Well, you got to think of this almost as like a grouping symbol. We can't do anything unless we get rid of this denominator down here. So here's a hint. Notice, remember, this means division. So let's undo that first. How do you undo dividing? You multiply. So what happens if I multiply this side by 3? Our denominator here is going to cancel out. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do the other. So I'm left with 15 equals negative 5 plus x. Again, guys, here's my hint. When you have something like this, written as a fraction, if you can just multiply each side by whatever the denominator is, that's going to cancel out to give you 1. And then you only have to deal with the numerator. All right, back to solving this equation. I'm solving for x. I got to get rid of the negative 5. So I'm going to combine that with a positive 5. 15 plus 5 is 20 equals, that cancels, x. And that's it. X equals 20. So what I want you guys to take away from the different examples we did today is once you simplify each side, once you gather all your x terms up on one side, these are just two-step equations. And those are equations you hopefully already are pretty comfortable solving.